Joining us now on set exclusively is Curtiss-Wright Chair and CEO Lynn Bamford. This is her first broadcast interview in the role, and it's so good to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's my pleasure to get to talk a little bit more about Curtiss-Wright and share it with your audience.
So I just mentioned it's almost century-old company, but you're engaged in a renaissance, if you will. You're sort of positioned for the future of growth, whether it's in defense, whether it's in energy. So I actually want to start with the energy piece of it, because it's not the biggest piece of your portfolio, but it's growing gangbusters, and that's commercial nuclear. I guess just walk me through what that means for the future of the company.
I'd love to. It is definitely an exciting portion of our portfolio and drawing a lot of attention. And even though it's relatively small, just over 10% today, 12% to be specific, it's an important part, and we're a critical supplier into the industry because I'll really break it down and talk about where our business comes from in three different buckets. One is, we support every nuclear power plant that's operating here in the U.S. and Canada and the U.K., and allowing them to continue to have safe, reliable operations and do things such as the plant life extensions from 60 to 80 years. And so that's the biggest portion of that revenue today. But really starting a handful of years ago, as the concept of small modular reactors to really revolutionize the industry, where it was being, invented, Curtiss-Wright's been working with the major SMR players, really to secure meaningful content across those reactor designs and being a critical supplier into them. Most notably, it's X-Energy, TerraPower, Rolls-Royce, where we feel we'll have anywhere from 20 to over $120 million of content per reactor.
So we keep hearing about the promise of this new nuclear renaissance. Is it coming, and how quickly does it come?
Well, I do believe it's coming, and I think, we could see line of sight to that in Eastern Europe and put out, a belief that in our May Investor Day last year that we could see $1.5 billion of business coming to Curtiss-Wright driven by Eastern Europe. And with this administration's executive orders that were, announced just a couple months ago, it has really, lit the U.S. nuclear industry on fire. And it's everything from uprates, to try and get more out of the current reactors, which is great for Curtiss-Wright. But even more importantly, the announcement that there's a goal of having 10 large reactors under construction by the end of the decade, by 2030,
wow,
which is a really big deal. So we've had a long-standing partnership with Westinghouse, who will be building, these reactors. And the pace of our engagements and work to make sure we're prepared to be a great supplier to them is really dynamic and exciting.
Now, you're very well positioned in defense. You've got shipbuilding, but you also have defense and electronics. We're obviously seeing defense dollars grow here in the U.S., but also in Europe. So how do you see that continuing to funnel through?
It's an important part of our portfolio, and there is fantastic things happening here in the U.S. and in Europe. And starting here, the priorities in the 2026 defense budget, whether it's shipbuilding, funding the industrial base, Army modernization, Air Force dominance, and the Golden Dome, which is getting a lot of discussion. Those are all great areas for us where we will have meaningful content and be able to support the U.S. government. But that's not to minimize what's going on internationally.
Lynn, you got a question on the call about your purchase of NVIDIA Blackwell GPUs, and you talked about quick decision making that's necessary in defense and how those might come into play. Can you sketch out for investors what kind of scenario those would be used in and how you think you can gain advantage?
Yeah, so it's an exciting new partnership that we've signed that has, just to share with the viewers, gives us access to the embedded computing, the networking, and the AI arms of their technology, which is pretty unique and something we're very pleased with. And it's going to take computing to new portions of the battlefield where it wasn't before, as it enables, computing at the tactical edge, which is, really this concept of taking data from sensors, computing, and making an action based on that data and pushing it way out that will really advantage the soldier. And so it's, early days, and we'll see, but we're excited to be getting our products here in our customers' hands, in just a handful more months.
Are you acquisitive?
We are definitely acquisitive. We're very purposeful of saying that is our top goal for using our capital dollars. As you mentioned, we did announce a share buyback today. We had built up a bit of a war chest, thinking there was a couple targets that were going to maybe be in play for us this year. And we talked about that on our call last week, that they really didn't fit through our strategic and financial filters. And so we felt it was the right time to go ahead and put some of that capital work for our shareholders with a share buyback.